frontman of legendary hip-hop group Fu-Schnickens. He's a sick MC, whether in a group or solo. He's helped shape the soundtrack of my life as a 13-year-old kid in Washington Heights. He's Shift Fu, a.k.a. Jungle Rock Jr., and I want to welcome him to the library with Tim Einenkel. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, man. Thanks for having me.
So like always, I like to obviously start from the beginning.
Okay.
When you were growing up, what was kind of the soundtrack being played in your household?
The soundtrack in my household was kind of crazy because West Indian. So I heard soca, reggae, and hip hop mixed, and it was just that with some other a cornucopia of other sounds also, but that was just like the backdrop in my house. Saturday mornings, you wake up, you're hearing reggae music. You understand what I'm saying? And after the reggae music died out, then it was soca, and then my brother would just come and just be reckless with the hip hop music for the rest of the night. You know,
what was it about? You listen to your discography and you're able to rhyme straight. You're able to, sound reggae. What was it about? Why not go on the reggae path versus why'd you go on the hip hop path?
This is something I never told anybody. When I first started out, I wasn't MCing at all. I was strictly doing reggae. And then I went into a friend of mine's basement. His name was Wallstein Chapman. And I picked up Shinehead's album. I think it was something Concrete University or some Sidewalk University. And I played the album. When I played the album, he was doing both. So I said to myself, I wanted to do both and master both. I don't want to be an MC that walks on stage and just can't do anything else. I just feel that if someone throws on hip hop beats and you're just stuck doing that, then that's just that. I just wanted to do more. So I got more into hip hop, and it just shaped my sound, being able to do both. You know what I mean? Just borrowing from each other, because hip hop and reggae more so are like cousins in a sense. So it was fun for me.
Why music being your path?
No, music being my path. I don't play sports, bro. You know what I'm saying? I don't play sports, man. I wasn't that kid that was really into like the sports and all the other things. And I think I gravitated to music because that's all I heard in my house. So I was able to play the tenor steel pan growing up as a kid. So it shaped my ear real weird. So when I heard music, I'm hearing that within music. So, and plus I was sickly when I was young, born without any floating ribs, umbilical hernia, heart murmur, you know what I'm saying? And I had leg braces. So I wasn't thinking of sports. So the only thing I could do was just sit, and I was just listening to this black radio that my father had brought me at the time. So I just started mimicking everything that I was hearing, and I got incredible at it and just started writing from there. So I was one of those weird kids that, like, at 11 years old, I was kind of dangerous. Then, people were just like, yeah, he's a little bit, too much, lyrically. But at around 11 is when I knew. I want to say around 11 is when my brother knew, because he used to bring a lot of ska music from England, and I started mimicking the ska patterns and cadences, and from then he knew that, I had something special going on.
So when did you start your writing? When do you start, sharing publicly?
Writing. I was writing from when I was 9. I was writing from when I was 9. I was mimicking my brother because he was an MC. And at that point in time is when I knew that I had something, you know what I mean? So the writing began at 9, and I haven't stopped since, you know what I mean? So, yeah, to answer that question.
You say it's interesting. You say you're mimicking your brother. You're obviously from a different school and it's not throwing shade at today's MC, but or beat maker, so to say, but. Right. Everyone sounds the same, and it's not to be like, because I'm 39, old dude. I think it's legit.
Right.
You come from a school that you have to be different.
Yes.
I feel like as I'm the youngest of 3 total boys, it's easy to just like mimic your older brother and not feel like you could change what they're doing.
Right.
how did you know that you had to be different in this music?
I think when we came out, before we came out, you had De La Soul and Tribe Called Quest, and there was this new energy in hip-hop where everybody felt like they had to stand alone by themselves, but still be amongst people, and everybody had their own sound, you know. So I said if I was going to, you know, do music or get into the music industry, I wanted to make sure that I had my own sound, and I didn't want to sound like anybody else. So that's why when it came to different cadences and different flows and styles that I would introduce, and, you know, rhyming backwards and forwards and doing all this other things and tripling up on lyrics and stuff like that, no one was doing that at the time. So I figured that, you know, with the name itself, Fu-Schnickens, and the styles that I had mastered, I figured that we would stand out, you know, which we did kind of, and you know, things worked, you know what I mean? So for me, that was a big thing. And then also representing, you know, the West Indian culture, like doing the record Ring the Alarm, where people were able to say, well, that's like the first hip hop group to do a dance hall record, right. You know what I mean? And to have it played on dance hall radio, it was unheard of. And to go and to go gold in Canada wasn't easy for American artists because that was frowned upon at the time. But we went gold in a matter of 3 weeks there because of the large West Indian base there. So they were just like, well, this is the first time we have somebody that's West Indian that could do both, and he's playing on, you know, reggae radio and hip hop radio. So yeah, I gotta embrace that.
Is it? I was gonna ask you this later, but speaking of ring the alarm, is there stuff about, from an artistic point of view, is there stuff that reggae, West Indian music allows you to do or doesn't allow you to do that hip hop does or doesn't allow you to do?
That's a good question. That is a very good question, and I can answer it like this. The one thing about reggae music, or let's keep it like that. The one thing about reggae music that you can do and not get frowned upon is you can talk about God in reggae music and nobody frown upon it.
Oh, interesting.
Think about that. There's when you go to a reggae party, there's certain parts of reggae that they play in the party. As soon as you go inside there, there's the early juggling music, which might be the early records from the 80s or the 70s or whatever. And then there's a conscious period before they get into the dance hall. And that conscious period is where you'd hear your Capletons, your Sizzlers, and all those other people that can actually speak about society, God, or whatever, and you won't get frowned upon at all. But in hip-hop, you know, the only person that was able to do something like that and get away with it was Kanye. And I'm not saying that well, I am saying that. It is kind of bad that you just can't actually be yourself. You understand what I'm saying? They have to basically generalize it to a kind of hip hop, like this is conscious or gospel hip hop.
Right.
But in reggae music, you can get on stage with a conscious artist, a dancehall artist, a lovers rock artist, all in the same festival, and throw on one beat, and they could all say what they want to say, and the crowd will just love them.
Is it frowned upon in hip hop by labels, or is it more? I mean, or is it more because it's categorized?
It's categorized for one, and I think it's. I think when there's borders and things are categorized, that it gets kind of corny, because you're saying that is that and that has to do that, right? Why can't you throw on Impeach the President and have a gospel artist just jump on there and rhyme with the likes of several other artists? I get that people aren't ready to see or hear something like that, actually, but I think that that's the only problem with the difference between hip-hop and reggae, how those things could actually happen and it won't be categorized at all.
You said something interesting recently. I think very
people. What up?
Very powerful on Instagram. You posted about, and you know, people say this and they kind of feel like they say it because they throw it away. But you wrote this post about how music really saved your life. can you talk about that post and what paths did you see yourself going down if it wasn't for music?
You mean the recent post?
Yes.
Okay, the recent post was like, what, yesterday?
I have 2 kids. It's very delusional what day of the week it is for me, but yes.
It's a post that I put up yesterday. For me, I didn't think that I had a voice, right? Because first and foremost, I was the kid that didn't play any sports. When I came outside to play with certain people or whatever as a kid, it was only a few people that basically understood, well, he can't play football, he can't do this, he can't do that. Well, all right, we're just going to sit on the steps and we're just going to tell your mama jokes or whatever. Just enjoy ourselves. But as I got older and I was when I went to high school, I couldn't join certain teams or anything. So the only thing that I was able to do was join the music class. And after school is when things just went crazy because, now you're running with a different crowd. And I just started doing everything crazy, mimicking my brother. You know what I mean? Because at that point in time, that's my superhero, right?
Right, yeah, of course. Yeah.
After your brothers, then your father. My brother's my superhero because he's coming home with all these stories, man. And I'm like, yo, I want to do the same thing. So I just started wilding out, being in different places where I should not have been and doing things. Sorry, Ma. She probably today would bust out in tears if she knew I did that. But I was doing it because I felt there was a need to do it at the time. I didn't want my parents to actually come out of their pockets anymore to do any more for me, at a young age. That was 13 when I started wilding out. But when I was doing everything that I was doing, I always heard music. And it was the weirdest thing. I would be in certain places and I'd be sitting there waiting for certain things to happen, or certain things to come to be moved, and I'm hearing music, and I'm just writing on anything I could find.
Wow, yeah.
Brown paper bag. I'm writing on the back of when you buy something from McDonald's and you get your burger and it's in the wrapper.
Oh, yeah.
I'm writing on that. So, in a sense, music did save my life because there were certain situations and things people asked me to do that I just couldn't do because of what I started feeling about myself. I was like, yo, I think I could really do this thing. You know what I mean? And they're like, nah, dude, you making enough money doing what you're doing. I'm like, nah, well, my parents didn't come to this country, to raise failures in a sense. You know what I mean? So I figured that, I would try my hand at it. It changed my life in a sense because, I started looking at school different because of the writing. I needed more information. So the only way you could get information to write is to go to class. I started going to class. I started writing poetry in school. I got confidence. I started performing in schools. I started doing both reggae and both hip hop in schools and winning all these battles and competitions. And that's how it actually saved my life. You know what I mean? But the path that I was on was not a good path. It was not a good path. And to the point where my brother tried to step in and help me or check me, as an older brother. He was like, nah, you worse than me. And I'm like, yeah, but that's what you're thinking at the time. You got to be better than your brother, but it shouldn't have been that. You know what I mean? So to this day, he and I are grateful that he used to bring home all those Scar tapes. And those are the tapes that I used to take with me when I used to go and do foolishness. You know what I mean? And just have it in a Walkman, for those that know what a Walkman. Just be playing my Sony Walkman and just listening to all these ska rhythms, and while everything around me is happening, I'm just writing to what I'm hearing. So it shaped my life. I looked at my parents different after that because when you're starting to listen to conscious music, then you're understanding a parent's position. And I started feeling bad because of certain things they were telling me, and I wasn't paying attention because I just wanted to be the oddball. But when I started paying attention and understanding how I have to treat them and be thankful that they did something that I didn't do. They uprooted from a one country and came to another and just started from scratch, just to make sure that we were okay. So I had to look at that and be very, super appreciative, you know what I mean? Instead of doing all the foolishness. So that's how music really shaped my life. And And from that, dealing with my son, dealing with my wife, dealing with, friends around me, it's totally different now. Like if I had the same mindset I had at 13 to 19, nah, I don't know. It would have been totally different, but I'm just glad that music was there and it saved my life. And yeah, it totally saved my life.
Was there comedians have like comedian, where like there might be like a local comedian that you don't know, no one knows about, but but everyone knows about him if you're a comedian. For you, growing up, was there like an MC that might be local and never really blew up, but kind of you looked up to? I know you talked about your brother. Anyone else?
I'm gonna talk about an MC who did blow up, but I don't think he got all the recognition that he did. His name is Educated Rapper from UTFO. I lived on 56th Street between Church and Snyder. He lived on 55th Street between Church and Linden. And growing up, they were in a group before the UTFO, and they were called the Jamalot Crew. And they played at all of the block parties in Brooklyn. So I used to see this guy, Educated Rapper, and he's rhyming, and I was like, he's using these huge words that, I'm getting I'm getting in school as spelling words.
Right,
understand what I'm saying? But he's using them like it's nothing. And one day he played for my brother's 16th birthday party in the backyard. And, the Jamalot Crew was there. At the time, Ice was part of the Jamalot Crew, and, along with Educated Rapper, but not Kango Kid and everybody else. So he got on the mic and just started rhyming. I'm like, this is the dude that's going around the neighborhood, doing this thing. And at that time, I wrote a happy birthday rhyme for my brother. And I was like, I want to do this happy birthday rhyme for my brother. My brother was just like, nah. He said, let him go. So I got on the mic and I did this happy birthday rhyme and destroyed this backyard party. And he told me at the time, Educated Rapper, he was like, keep it up. You're going to be good at this one day. I said, okay. And then years later, I'm holding his album,
right?
UTFO. And I'm like, that's the guy, blah, blah, blah. That's crazy. But I would have to say Educated Rapper. He was the dude in the neighborhood that really made me want to do it, because he lived directly around the corner.
Right.
And I was actually friends with his brother, but didn't know that my boy's brother was Educated Rapper. You know what I mean? So
I want to turn to your music. And I mean, particularly the single Lash Move, but not because of, basically not because of what it represented and how, impactful it was as a kid growing up. But when you look at the production credit, what really stands out, and he's been on the show, is the Bob Power studio. If you could, you're recording at a time where people are forced to go into a studio to record. They're, not digital yet, so you actually have sessions where you're taping, stuff on the board and making sure no one fucks with it at the end of the day.
Right.
If you could kind of take us into those recording sessions and be like, what was that like for people that now are, recording in a closet and sending an MP3 to someone else and stuff like that?
Wow. I could say wow first. Bob Powers is not from this planet. Bob Powers was not just an engineer, he was also a producer. Because he would hear certain things and tell you to try it. And I'm not the easiest person to actually engineer for or record at that time. It's different now with, everything is digital. But back then you're punching in, right, or you're splicing tape. But Bob is sitting there saying, okay, here's what we're going to do. He listened to me and he says, all right, I'm going to record you twice. I'm like, what do you mean you're going to record me twice? He said, I'm going to record you twice. And I'm trying to understand what this man is saying, but he was actually talking about 2 tracks. He says, give me your best and see if you can beat your best. And I give him my best, and then I'm saying, see if I can beat my best. But while I'm doing all of this, he's actually recording me in places where he thought wasn't audible for people. Now, that's smart. That's back then. And he's just like, okay. And he's erasing and cutting. And he said, come in and hear your verse. And I'd listen, and I'm like, oh, that's very. But he's putting everything together because he knows the verse because I said it so many times, but he's just like, all right, I just wanted to make sure certain things were audible. Now, to actually have to go into a room and see nothing but reels is crazy because first and foremost, you have, let's say Jive Records. Everybody's 4-inch reels were actually downstairs at Battery because you had to use Battery if you were signed to Jive. So you're stepping inside there, you're seeing KRS, you're seeing Tribe Called Quest, you're seeing all these things, and you're standing there going, my God, this is a lot of people recording here. Then you start to see Billy Ocean. You know, just people that you wouldn't even, you know, you're seeing Billy Ocean, then you're seeing UTFO too, you know, and you're standing there saying, this is not easy because Bob would get there before us and put the tape up. And he would constantly be rewinding and playing. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm warming up the machine. No, I'm not thinking about that. Right. He's warming up the machine. He's like, remember, if the machine sits, it sits. So I'm warming up the machine. As soon as I come in there, he's ready. But he's not from here, man. He's not from here. Chip, are you ready? I'm ready for you. Everything was... And he's like, why don't we add an echo here? What else different do you hear? But I'm not hearing anything. I'm just hearing straight lyrics. And he's like, no. Ear candy. You got to think about peaks and valleys. He taught us all of this. Peaks and valleys. Where's the thing that you want people to hear you say? What are people going to say with you? You know, these are things that engineers don't normally do. Right. So I'm like, well, is he engineering? What the fuck? You know, like you know what I'm saying? But then it had to come to a point where I'm just like, that's the only person I wanted to record with. Bob Powers, and within that time, no one really wanted to record without Bob because of his input. You know what I mean? So, and those times it was crazy because sometimes you'd get an engineer whose cuts weren't too precise. You know what I mean? And you can hear it on the tape because sometimes when people would connect, they connect with a regular tape, and then you'd hear it and be like, "Nah, dude, I heard that from within the track." It was crazy. But you had to have that right person, that right engineer that loved his art, loved the art form, and wanted you to do good. Because there were some people that used to come in there that just wanted to check. Right. And you could tell when you listen to a Bob Powers session and their session, or Bob Powers mix and their mix. Bob would mix before you come there. Like he'll say, all right, I'm going to start mixing your record at 3:00. I need you there at 5. Wow. Right? So I'm like, well, why you want me to come in at 5? He's EQing everything. Kick, snare, your voice. So when you walk in, all he's doing is pressing play and you're listening, saying, this is incredible. He's like, no, I want you to look for what's wrong. He's like, I just EQ'd everything for you to hear. Now, what do you hear that's wrong in it? And I'm like, well, you can bring my vocals down, my doubles is too loud. Doubles is too loud. You can bring down the snare, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, all right, we'll leave the room. The track would be mixed. It's only vocals that he'd be dealing with when we get there. And the track would sound huge. And we're like, dang, I want to do my verse over this. Now you're actually hearing, what he can actually do to the track. So big up to Bob, man. That's the alien. Him and Skeff Anselm. Crazy engineers, man. All this Darwin Kennedy too, and there's a bunch of them, but he was that dude. Yeah.
Did the writing? I hear that. Does that mean did the writing process change for you? I mean, like pre Bob Powers versus when you're going. Were you writing in studio? I
never wrote in the studio. I never wrote in the studio because, upbringing, on this. I think the first time when I wrote in the studio, my father asked me, when you went to write in the studio, were they charging you? And I said, yes. And he was like, how much were they charging you per hour? I said, $75 per hour. And he said, did you finish the song? I said, no. He said, that's a waste of money. So I never wrote in the studio again. And I would write at home, and Bob Powers told me to buy a handheld recorder and practice my verses before I came in, so my sessions would be short. So by the time I got there and I'm kicking my verse, I knew it by heart, front to back, and he'd say, all right, well, give me two, go inside there and kick your verse. I need your bass, and I do it, and I'll be done.
Yeah. Obviously, Lash Move was a huge hit, and all of us could probably recite it today, which is good. And of course, it had the late great Phife on it. How did Phife get on it, and what kind of was what did you take away from working with Phife?
The Phife story goes back before music. Phife and Pac Fu. Phife's mother and Pac Fu's mother grew up in Trinidad. And Phife used to come on the block, and he would play football. Now remember, I was playing football, right? So I'd be on Lennox steps telling the jokes, which is Pac Fu. I'd be telling the jokes of Pac Fu on the steps, but Phife was also sickly when he was young too. So he would go and play football, and he'd get hurt up a little bit. But then he'd go and sit on the porch. So it would be Lennox and his entire family with Phife in the house across the street from me. And that's where I knew Malik from. And also from a cousin of mine, Jewel Hudson. They went to the same church, Seventh-day Adventist church or whatever. So I knew him from there too. So it was before music. So then to actually get signed to Jive, and then Lennox sees his childhood friend, like, yo, Malik, what's happening? He's like, so you're here? He's like, yeah, we got signed. So automatically he was like, yo, we got to do a record. We got to do a record. We didn't know what we would do, what type of record we were going to do. Phife and I got closer because of the whole parents being from Trinidad, and everybody used to say, y'all look alike, and I'm like, I don't look like Phife. And the closeness grew from there. Very competitive person, very competitive. You know what I mean? That was his thing. Like, I'm going to kick. And he's one dude that I think that a lot of people slept on when it came to freestyling.
All right.
An incredible freestyler. Like, you put him in a room and he'd be there for hours. Hours. Non-stop. And half of the stuff he wrote was off the top. Half of it. Like, he'll come in with a verse that's half done and just say the rest. That's how we did the song with Whitey Don called Article, when we recorded it in Long Island. He had half a verse. I had my full verse. I did my verse, and he was just sitting in the corner playing around. And then he just started saying his verse, and then just caught that pocket and kept going. And I looked at him, I was like, dang, I need to learn how to do that. And he was like, well, dude, just, stop playing around with words or whatever. But it was to finally do the record and get in there. I remember Phife walking in there, and he was kicking his verse to Ali. Jive Records said, you guys been taking too long to finish your album. So Ali was like, I'm going to finish the rest of the album. I love their sound. So we had 3 days to finish the album. We did Lash Move, Truth. We did everything that was produced by Ali Shaheed in 3 days. So that's Heavenly Father, Lash Move, Truth, Fu-Schnickens, all that stuff we did in 3 days. 3 days. Everything that he produced. So we were just sitting there just bringing in certain people. All right. Then Phife walks in and was like, yo, y'all ready? And he kicks his verse to Ali. And he was like, well, all right, I'm just going to go in there and do my verse. He did his verse. We just started yelling. And I was like, I'm going to do my verse. I did my verse. And we just was laughing because we were just like, wait till when people hear this. Because, if you really think about it, Tribe didn't really collab with much people at the time. So for a member of Tribe to be like, yeah, I'm gonna rock with these guys right here. Everybody gave us that second listen. Like, what is it about them? Whatever, you know what I mean? But it was incredible when it was done. It was incredible when we did the video. And I think for me, when Tribe broke up for the first time and Phife was touring by himself, I was touring with him. So every night we're doing a Lash Move, just him and I. You know what I'm saying? So there's nights when we sit there and laugh and be like, yo, remember when we recorded that song? And I was like, yeah, I remember you walked in the room and you had on this this baseball cap. What color baseball cap was that? He was like, it was a blue and red baseball cap. It was the Chiefs. He remembered what he was wearing. The Chiefs, you know, da-da-da. And I had on these sneakers and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. But I think because of that record created the bond because touring together like that, you know, it was easy to segue into his set.
Right.
Because I would end with La Schmoove, and then he'd come out from the back and do his verse, and then he went into his set. You know what I mean? So that was powerful for then and powerful before, you know, his demise. Like the last time we performed together was in Canada, and he was tired. I think he'd done a bunch of shows, and he needed water, and he could not perform. But the last thing we did was La Schmoove to come into his set, but that was the last time we ever performed that song together. And I was like, wow, you know what I mean? Because when I look back at it now, that really was the last time we actually did the song together.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? We haven't, you know, after that was it. We, you know, when we had plans to do other things, you know what I mean? But that was the last time we did that song. So, you know, and hearing the song now, I was like, who would think that from that day, it you know, we became men and we're touring together.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Sharing sneaker ideas and how to clean sneakers with toothpaste and rubbing alcohol and all sorts of stuff that people wouldn't even think about, you know what I'm saying? And to form this bond and friendship over a song and just competition, you know, and understanding that, you know, we grew up together.
Right.
You know, it's not like we didn't know each other. Like we knew each other, and I knew his family. You know what I mean? I knew his mom's was my boy Lennox's good friend, and they would come over and we'd be there together. But then to get signed and do something like that and be grown men touring, that was a big thing, man. That was big.
Was there a lyric in that song that kind of you, maybe by Phife, that like the first time you heard it, you just got floored? I go, oh shit, that's amazing.
Phife Dawg was never, here we go once again with the ill flow. Other MCs that rap, the style is so. Just every intro that Phife did to me was the stamp for him. I think that he got to a point where he wanted people to hear him. So every rhyme, if you could recite from Phife, the intro was always a heavy intro. There's some MCs that you can listen to and be like, but there's that one line you're always saying, and then you really don't remember the rest of the rhyme.
Right.
But Phife's intro and the heart of his verses, always crazy.
That's crazy. I want to turn. I mean, another song, obviously, that was huge as well was "What's Up, Doc" featuring Shaq. As a 14-year-old kid, hearing that and seeing that
Caribbean hip hop vibe coming.
Shaq is rhyming.
Okay.
You know, he's a 14-year-old basketball player is rhyming. Mm-hmm. I always wonder, how did that happen? And did you know, or did you? And it's not to be, not put shade on Shaq, but did you expect much from him coming out the gates?
Well, see, that's another thing too. It goes back to how I was raised. You hear a person's heart. I don't never care what comes out of a person's mouth, right? I hear the heart first. What comes out of the person's mouth is what they're thinking and what they're feeling. You know what I mean? So when he said to me that he had his rhyme, I didn't ask him if it was good. I didn't ask him if it was bad. But you got to understand, hearing his heart say that he had his rhyme and that he wanted to record his verse, you knew he was going to give it his best shot.
Right.
Because at that particular point in time, everybody is talking about him, so you're not going to give your worst. Because that could have done so much to him in the media. Like, all right, Orlando Magic, you know, it signs him, blah, blah, but he's garbage at, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I guess, you know, just hearing him and him saying, you know, let me kick my verse. And then when he went in there, I sat there with him and just a few lines. I just coached him on presence. I said, don't say that like that. Just say it like this. And he listened. And then when he heard it back, that was the first time he heard himself. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, you know, that's actually good. That's not bad. You know, I've heard worse. I was like, yeah, that's actually good, Shaq. That's dope. But a lot of people don't know he's a DJ at heart.
Right.
DJ. So back then he was DJing. We'd go to his house and he'd be mixing and blending records like it's nothing. So to see him doing these Shaq Diesel concerts and all this stuff, and he's playing records and mixing, that's something I knew for a long time ago that he was able to do, you know, without any hiccups. You know what I mean? But MCing, he took the time. He put enough time into that and enough pen work, because he'd call me on the plane flying to a different game, right? So I get a call at 2 a.m. in the morning, and I'm like, where are you? He's like, we flying to the other game that we got to play, Orlando versus whomever. And he's like, I got to kick this for you. So that's how I knew he was focused, and he's kicking the rhyme, and you're hearing all his other teammates like, yo, come on, man. You know, and he's just like, nah, I'm on the phone, just leave me alone. But he's really focused on, you know, what he's doing. So I think that I was blessed to be able to introduce, I want to say, the world to like the first real MC / basketball player. You know what I mean? That actually took it to heart. That there's no other MC that rhyme, no other basketball player that rhyme with so many other MCs, and that's been so respected. You know what I mean? It's the only basketball player that rhymed with Biggie,
right?
And that's the only basketball player that Biggie wrote for,
right? You've had other try to rhyme,
yeah. There's
failed miserably,
failed. And we can say that. Yeah.